Hey everybody, welcome to Season 3 of Song Revolution. Get ready to ramp up your songwriting. Hey everybody, John here. Welcome back to Season 3 of Song Revolution. We are kicking off 2025 in grand style. I hope that you were following along throughout January when we were getting unstuck, getting a plan so that we can be heard. We know that you are called, and we're called to help you be heard as a songwriter. That's just God flowing through your life. So we want to come alongside you and help you do that throughout this entire year. It's not too late. In fact, I hope you've already downloaded your 31-page PDF, the NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge Guide. I put my heart into that thing, and I think that it's going to really be a game changer for you if you'll follow along with us, if you will add knowledge and new skills to your songwriting, to your calling each month of this year. Just think where you can be in a year if you just devote even a little bit of time every week and every day to your songwriting. And I help you do that with the challenge, with the guide that if you'll follow along, if you'll come show up for the shows, show up for our monthly free songwriter training that happens every first Monday of the month. If you're on our mailing list, you know all about this. If you're not, jump over to Nashville Christian Songwriters and get on the list, or look in the show notes and download your PDF, and you'll be on our mailing list. And we only bring you quality emails. So follow along, jump into the free training, and then check out NCS Community and our other programs that really are geared to help you fulfill your call. Well, if you've been following along, you know that February has been all about music production, because it's one thing to capture your song ideas and voice memos or in your notes or whatever, but then how do you take your songs to the world? The first podcast of February, Bryant Urich, sitting here to my right, we talked about From Your Work Demo to the World. And then we had Kobe James on, wonderful young producer, artist, songwriter, coach that we work with. That was a great show. I loved that. And then we came back talking about production-ready songs. We thought it would be really good if Bryant and I, in our studio here in Nashville, actually walked you through how producers like Bryant actually put the songs together, how they take it from your work tape, said tape, I said work tape, your demo, your working demo to really a finished masters. So these guys make fun of me around here because I am not a gearhead. I know that there's all sorts of things in here that I should never touch. So I just leave it to them. And Brian is a wonderful producer. We've been working together since 2017, doing a lot of different things. We are busy every single week here in the studio producing different artists that we're working with, the NCS Collective artist, and a lot of other wonderful things. So Bryant's going to walk us through how he does it, how he thinks, and the process of taking it from the work tape to the world. Bryant, man.
Yeah.
All right, make it
it's
simple.
It's going to be great.
Don't make it too
simple.
hard, okay?
So you hire a producer and they do it for you.
And you give them money.
That's the simple.
That's it.
No, we get this question all the time, right? Like people send in songs, they send in their rough piano, vocal, guitar, vocal, or acapella, just singing a song. And they wonder, how does it go from this to a master recording that I would release on streaming or put on a CD or cassette tape?
Yeah, and we've been talking about masters too, the difference between, and it's all in the guide, the difference between your work demo, a home demo, and then all the way to a master recording.
Right, yeah. So what we thought we would do is kind of walk through a song. We actually wrote this song at a writing retreat that we had. So it started at nothing. We came up with the idea. We captured the demo when we wrote it. Probably a couple hours, I think, in that session.
On a phone?
This one's a little more involved. We had a piano and a microphone, so we did do like a piano and a vocal So this one's a little bit more beyond just like a voice memo, but we get those all the time too, just a raw voice recording. So we thought it'd be cool to show you from kind of start to finish, write the song, record the idea, and then take it all the way through kind of the different layers of production, what you can do, what's possible, depending on the style or end goal of the song. So we have one today that is from Ezra Worship, which is a college internship based out of Alabama. We would do a lot with them. They're a new worship artist.
Part of our group. NCS collective family. And do you have the actual work demo?
I do. Yeah,
cool.
We've got both. So we're going to kind of transition to the screen. I'm just going to show you. I'm using an application called Logic Pro. If you have a Mac, you can get that for, I think it's $200 on the App Store. You can also use GarageBand, which is kind of the free, like lower version of that. Still super powerful and great. But there's all kinds of different options, right? You have Logic, you have Pro Tools, which is kind of the industry standard, has been for years. Ableton is another DAW, digital audio workstation, that you can create sounds in, pull tracks into, record into, and create a song from scratch. So that's kind of what we're going to show you today. But yeah, this song in particular is called To You Forever. And I'll transition to the computer here, and we can start by showing the work tape, which is really just again, piano and vocal. I'll make it a little bigger here. That we recorded the day we wrote it, right? So granted, we had a phenomenal singer on the right, so she sang the demo. So it sounds amazing as is, but she was a great singer.
Just so we know what we're looking at a waveform, a stereo waveform, and it's the top blue. You just highlighted it in yellow, and that's the only track that we're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Okay? Yep. So here's the work tape from the day we wrote.
May I never lose the wonder of the grace you gave so freely.
And I'm going to add in the piano here.
May I never grow too familiar of your presence all around me. Open my eyes to see like I have never seen.
So I'll stop it there. Just bare bones, that's what we had, right? We just had piano, we had a vocal.
Very simple piano too, just
very
chords.
Simple, just chords. Yeah, because we came up with the idea and really just barely fleshed out those chord structures. So that's where we started. So I think that was about that song sat for probably 8 or 9 months before we actually produced it. So we talked about the direction for the song, what we wanted it to be. We felt like it was intended for congregational worship. The song being called To You Forever, just great for a congregational setting. So we set out to do a more modern congregational worship song. Think of Bethel, Hillsong, name fill in the blank of modern worship. We grabbed some guitar tones that match. We did live drums. We did bass guitar. We started adding the elements little by little. So I guess a good place to start would just be to understand your vision for the song is very important. I mean, wouldn't you say that's one of the most important things when you get into producing, like
Absolutely.
Knowing where it's going to go?
And especially if you're going to get to this point where you're spending money on a song,
Totally.
You really need to have the confidence that it is, as we said in the last episode, production ready, because a bass rate could be anywhere from $1,500 to $5,000 depending on your vision for the song. So you do need to know how produced out you really want it to be.
Totally.
And the best way to do that is to have a model. to like pick a song of a popular artist or a group that you like and go to a producer and say, I want it to sound like this. And they'll say, well, that's going to cost XYZ.
Yep. And I think I said this on another training or another podcast, but the way I start a lot of times is a reference playlist of finding similar artists, similar music that's out there that can inspire some of those sounds. Obviously not copying, we're not copy and pasting, but we are creating for the current moment.
Yeah, working within a genre.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of where we started with this one. We knew kind of out of the gate that we wanted it to have, kind of that modern worship treatment, which a lot of keys sounds, a lot of programming and synthesizers and big guitars, big drums. Kind of if you picture a worship team on a stage, full band, vocals, the whole thing. So we kind of started layering, and I think the first thing we did on this one was actually tracking drums. So we went into the studio. I hired my good friend Kyle, who does a lot behind the scenes here, to play drums. He's a fantastic drummer. Took the track as it was, and we kind of all sat around and came up with some ideas, and then he tracked the drum parts. So
can we back up one sec?
Yeah.
Because just for those who might not understand the concept, you had that very basic piano track and the vocal, you were just kind of working with that vocal. And then the concept is that you, instead of having a band in the room, which you can do, where the bass, the drums, the guitars, the keyboard, anybody else is in the room playing all their instruments at the same time. This concept is you could have a bass player in Iowa or a bass player in, Punjab or anywhere.
Yeah.
But because of the digital nature of things, you're layering tracks. You're adding things basically one at a time.
Yeah.
Just in case somebody doesn't understand that concept.
Yeah. And like you said, it can happen both ways. You can have everybody in the room at once. You can layer as you go. And a lot of times, recording and technology makes it easy to do that, sharing files back and forth. So we started with a drum track and we kind of built the rest around that. So I'll jump back to the screen here and you can see this is a standard drum kit that we tracked. We had, probably 10 to 12 different microphones on that drum kit, mostly miking individual drums. So you have your, there's some reverb here, but you have like your rack tom, you have up here, I guess it starts up here, kick drum, obviously. Your snare, we have like a sampled snare in there as well that makes it sound bigger. And then you have your rack tom, your floor tom, your overheads. So just go down the line here, hi-hats, room mics, a ride mic, which is kind of over that ride cymbal. And then we call it a geek mic, where it's just kind of there, positioned in the middle, and we can hit it with a lot of effects and do cool stuff. But that's kind of what makes up the drum bus or the drum group. And you can kind of hear some of that from the top.
You have a geek mic because y'all geek out on this stuff.
That's really it.
That's what
they call it a geek mic after the people using it, yeah. So that's kind of our basic intro drum groove. And then
each section has its own groove.
Yeah, this is our intro. And then here's our verse. So we knew we wanted a big intro, and then we kind of kept the drums moving through that verse just a little bit. Again, just picture, this is very church worship team, Sunday morning kind of style, modern worship. But and then from there, we tracked bass and some guitars. I had a friend of mine track some guitars on this one. We tracked bass right here in the studio, here at NCS. I had my friend Chris, who did some keys. So he did a lot of additional keys programming. I'll show you some of that here. I'll just solo the pianos. So here's kind of the piano. We listened to that earlier. Pull the drums out and just show you some of the synths that go in with the keys parts. So it already gives a lot of movement, a lot of texture, just in that intro section and verse. So if I fast forward a little bit to the chorus, You can hear some of those parts already starting to fill it out. So from there, we added electric guitars. We added bass guitar, which is pretty straightforward. We had just 2 bass tracks, one clean and one dirty. One of them has some effects on it. So you can hear some of the bass. And the reason we like to do that, 2 bass tracks, is really just to get 2 different types of tones. You get a clean bass tone, and then you kind of have this dirty, more gritty bass tone here. That really doesn't sound great on its own, but you pair it with the original bass and you get kind of a nice blend.
That's so geeky.
Yeah, very, very deep here. We had some percussion in addition to some of the drum sounds. So kind of gives you like a nice shaker, some rhythm, nice little cymbal swell elements here and there.
And are those live or are those digital?
These are actually, most of these are digital. You can get a ton of really great high quality samples of cymbal swells, people recording cymbal swells, people recording shakers, and pop them into a program like Logic. And really a lot of those are built in to Logic. You know, a program like this has built-in sounds that you can pull from, and it's super easy to do that. So I'm going to add in the electric guitars now, because this song really, the electric guitar carries so much of the melody and the just overall kind of mid-range of the song. So I'm going to jump back to the beginning here, and you can hear some of the different guitar parts happening.
And that's you playing electric, right?
This is a friend of mine, actually. I didn't play on this one. I played the acoustics, but
this is what you do all the time.
This is what we do all the time. So here's our main kind of big lead guitar. And we had this nice little loop that we ended up using throughout the song. It's just this kind of cool, quirky little guitar part that ended up being a really nice bass for the song.
Now, is that live or digital?
That is a live guitar player. Okay. Yeah, playing through a guitar amp with the pedal board and kind of creating some of those sounds.
Gotcha.
So if we just get the whole, we'll just get the whole guitar group here. And make sure, yeah, that's it. So if we go a little later in the song, you can hear some of the additional layers here. Another big section here. And then we brought in a nice little groove for verse 2. Kind of keeps things moving a little bit. So if we bring in all the elements together, there are a couple things I didn't show. I mean, acoustic guitars, pretty straightforward. A nice shimmery chords playing in like an E shape position. Pretty simple. We did track that twice. So sometimes when you track things multiple times and layer them, you get a really nice texture that you wouldn't have just single tracking.
A doubling effect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. So if we go back here and kind of add in all the elements. So again, we've got a drum group, we've got a bass group, we've got percussion, some effects, which is really just like some little stings and splashes, little things that just kind of add to it. Acoustic guitars, electric guitars, pianos, our synths, and then our synth bass, which is just kind of like a drone synthesizer bass sound. You get something like this. It's kind of our big intro. So there's our lead vocal in there as well.
Wow. Well, I don't know about you guys watching, but I'm just completely overwhelmed by this. And
this is your world, man. Dive right in.
My world is the lyric and the melody and the song idea. That's where I spend most of my time coaching. But this is really fascinating, and I love that you kind of summed it all up with the grouping there on the screen so that we can see, even though it looks like 1,000 different tracks, and it's a lot of tracks, they have different groups. And so it is incredibly fascinating, complex, and there's even more to this once you capture all these tracks, once you get to mixing and mastering and the whole strategy behind that. And I'd like to take a quick break, and then when we come back, I'd like to have you kind of help us understand where would a simpleton like me start if I really wanted to do something like this with my own home demos.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, guys, I hope you're enjoying this. Bryant is a master at this and doing a phenomenal job of producing for Ezra Worship Initiative and for our other clients here at NCS. And he has his own band, Eau Claire, and we're writing all the time and producing here, and Bryant's just doing a great job. So don't be overwhelmed. I make fun of it all the time because it's just not my love, but I love the end result, and we want to help you get to the end result that you feel God wants for you. I want to take a quick break and just talk with you a minute about NCS community, because I think it's going to really be important in helping you ramp up your songwriting this year. We'll be right back. What would it feel like to have 52 weeks of access to the right people in Nashville? People who've been making music for decades. People who can answer every question that you have about what pro-level music making is all about. Well, you can get that and more by joining NCS Community. Our community is a group of worldwide dedicated Christian songwriters who want what you want, to glorify God with your gifts and to get your music out there. I hope that you'll consider joining NCS Community today. All right, guys, we're back. I really hope that you will consider joining NCS Community. It is a growing global community of dedicated Christian songwriters who care about what you care about, and that is about making Jesus famous, sharing your testimony, sharing this deep worship and passionate calling that you feel. So that's what we're all about here at Nashville Christian Songwriters. We're in our 10th year. We are in a year-long NCS 2025 Songwriting Challenge. So go ahead and download your guide in the show notes. Get on our mailing list. Come to our first Monday of the month free trainings. Listen to the podcast. Join community, and let's help you get where you want to go. So the first part of this podcast today, Bryant has been taking us through how to layer tracks, how to go from a work demo to a finished master like you'd hear on the radio, or like even churches have such incredible production these days, even like you hear at church. So I do feel a little overwhelmed because I'm not real technical in this, and I've found that my time is better spent writing killer lyrics and ideas and coaching people to do that. But there are people that want to do this, and music production is an important piece because if you don't do it, you've got to get it done somehow. And that's why we exist here at the studio and all that. You've taken us through layering the groups of keyboards, synths, starting with a simple piano, the guitar group, the drum group. We didn't quite get to the vocal group. So why don't you spend a few minutes on that, and then let's wrap today by helping those who are watching kind of know where to start in their own home recording.
Yeah, let's do it. So I kind of have two different vocal tracks here, one being the just raw vocal. So you can kind of hear the difference between a raw track just kind of straight into the microphone vocal, and then some with effects and processing on it. So let me solo that real quick. We'll go here.
Of your love for me, new every morning, mercy outpouring without measure.
Now that's the real final vocal, right?
That's the final vocal, but it's untreated. So that's just straight in the microphone.
Raw,
It's kind of raw feeling. She did a great job, great performance. But what we did then, and this is our kind of final mix session. So basically we've got this chain of plugins and effects, some tuning, some compression, all kinds of things going on here with some reverbs and all that. So you kind of get a more polished effect.
Wow.
Yeah.
She just got the anointing.
Yeah, right?
Holy Ghost fell on that.
So it makes a huge difference. And obviously that's a whole episode in itself. And there are tons of resources on YouTube for mixing and audio, and Mix with the Masters is a great resource on YouTube. But, there's an art behind that. There's a knowledge behind all the plugins and knowing what gear does and different things. Now, we did have some BGVs in this one too, so I'll pull down this folder, just kind of show you some of the harmony layers that we have. So we have a nice like alto group of vocals where we just tracked that 2 or 3 times and layered it in. And so altogether, it feels really nice. I think in a congregational worship song, it's always nice to have a live version with the crowd and everyone singing together. But this is more of a studio version of the song. So that's kind of a little, again, tip of the iceberg of how to record your vocal into a program like Logic, put some sort of polish on it where you can, make it feel a little more professional, and really take your home recordings kind of to the next level. So yeah, I guess the whole goal of this really is to just show that you can do this on your own, and it's doable. Not everyone has the skill. Not everyone needs to spend the hours and the days and the years learning this skill. But it is definitely attainable. And with software and technology and things that we have right in front of us, we can learn anything.
And tutorials, you mentioned YouTube is huge. There's, millions of hours of tutorials there, but it can be a tremendous time suck unless you're kind of tech oriented.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's cool.
And producer minded, kind of having that vision for the song and being able to bring it to life beyond just the guitar, just the piano.
And there are different kinds of songwriters. There are those who are producers in their head. They hear the whole song. And so when they're writing, they want to hear the bass part and the acoustic and the electrics. And then there are some others who are really more drawn toward the lyric idea predominantly, and that's me, and so that's why we coach the way we do around here, because I feel like if the lyric content isn't there, then this can all be cool, but in the end, the song doesn't have any lasting power.
Totally.
Right? And doesn't really hit somebody's heart the way it could. Now, if you can match this amazing production with an amazing lyric and melody, wow.
Yeah.
That's when it really pops.
That's the combo that we all want to hit, right?
Yeah,
Just
right.
Have a great song that stands on its own, and then add to it with production elements to really bring it to life and cause it to...
And that was last week's episode of Production Ready Song. Right?
Yeah,
I mean, it's like that's what we want you to have before you ever spend $1 on production with us or anybody. We want you to know that it's really there. But so you've mentioned some of the digital audio workstations, GarageBand being the Apple kind of basic. It's the Toyota to the Lexus.
Yes.
Is that right?
That's a great reference. Great reference.
It's like you can drive a Corolla or a Lexus, when you move up to Logic Pro.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, again, they're all different ones. Logic it's an Apple program, so if you have a Mac, you can download that. If you don't, if you're on Windows, Studio One is a great resource. Pro Tools is a little more in depth, I would say, for the average user just getting started. But
because it was like the first one in the water.
It's the industry standard. Yeah, they made the transition from analog to digital, and Pro Tools was kind of... And Cubase. Cubase is another Windows platform that's been around forever. That's Cubase, Cubase.
Thank you for that. I always thought it was like the letter Q.
No. They're not sponsoring this, but they could. They
could. Cubase.
I have to start using Cubase and not Logic for me to do that. But yeah, there are tons of options. So it's really, and this has been me too. I got a copy of Logic in college for a discounted rate, and I've had it for 12 years. So why I've gotten good in one thing and why, spread yourself thin
Yeah.
between a bunch of them. Get into one, learn it, use it for what you need, and don't get lost in all the fluff.
I like that. And what I do, because I can do basic Logic stuff. I've actually taught myself a lot. I play it down just for fun, but
yeah, you can get in there.
I can actually do a few things. But what I've learned to do, because I'm not a great player, I can play chords, I can do some things, but I'm not the musician you are. But I can do basic guitar or keyboard vocals and pretty much kind of demonstrate my idea.
Yeah.
But where I get lost is in trying to program drums and basses and add all the hoo-ha, that makes it amazing like what you've done today. And so I think my non-engineer, brain and heart would say to people watching is that if you're not oriented toward this way, but you want to, kind of get your toes in the water, start with just a piano vocal or a guitar vocal if you play.
Yep.
And these days, things are getting so sophisticated that it's easier to find loops that sort of sound like what you want. They kind of lock you in.
Sure.
You could program a whole song without ever playing a note.
Yeah.
But you can also get kind of locked into a style that you might not intend for your song.
Right.
So
based on what's available in the loop library. Yeah.
I mean, tell me if you think this is a bad strategy, but if you're not oriented toward this, but you still know kind of what you want your song to sound like, what if you sing it on a voice memo and then get with another musician and get with a producer and say, I sort of hear this like Brandon Lake, or name somebody, and it's sort of this mid-tempo thing, and this is kind of what I hear, and then they come along and help you interpret it into something like this.
Yep, definitely. And we have several people come to mind in our community, community members who have been writing and just getting better at their craft over the past year. And they'll use loops, a keyboard where they use a drum loop that they write to, or they, get into Logic and use the loop library and figure out ways to bring those ideas to life. So if you're willing to do the work and get in and try it, then by all means, it's an open ocean for you to jump in and do it. If not, like John said, find somebody who's more skilled in that way. Find a producer that you can work with. And just don't let that stop. Don't let that be the hang up of you writing and finishing and producing great songs.
Right. Because it is really about that progression of having the inspiration, getting the skills to take that inspiration, turn it into a great song, craft it, and then the work demo into some kind of home demo or even a pro level kind of recording.
Yeah.
All right. Definitely. Any last words for the folks today before we wrap it up?
I would say, I just reiterate that point. Don't let one thing be the roadblock. And if you're not a producer, we have plenty of people that have come through NCS that aren't producers. I would say more than are.
Yeah.
That don't let that hinder their process. They find a way. They find their people. That's why we created the community. That's why we do what we do, is so that you can find people to connect with to live out your songwriting calling or vision or whatever. Just keep on pushing.
Thanks, buddy. Well, you're inspirational to me, and I know to the people listening today, your work is amazing. You can check out a lot of Bryant's work through our NCS Collective on Spotify, our playlist with different artists there on our website at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. And I hope this has been encouraging to you to really take this thing all the way. We are a full-service production company, and we do offer production here. You can find that on the website. Just navigate through the nav links and find production. You can just fill out the form, and then we'll get back to you and talk about rates, talk about what we do, and try to hear your vision for taking your songs and making them, incredible for the world. So, Bryant, thanks again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I hope that you guys will go ahead and jump into the songwriting challenge if you haven't already. I can't encourage you enough to jump into that. Let's take your songwriting up this year so that this time next year, you're celebrating and you're getting the message of Christ that's burning in your heart out to the world. Jump into NCS Community. Take advantage of all the free resources that we offer. Just go to the site. Just check it all out. Our podcast is just so much of our heart. It's a big part of what we do to encourage you. So thanks for joining us on Song Revolution. And we're going to jump into next month, next week. It's going to be a great month. And it is going to be about, I navigated away from that, building your songwriting and your artist career. So we want to help you out. You're called and we're here to help. We'll see you next time. Thanks for joining us on today's show. If you got some value, please help us share the love. Leave a like and a share and a good review. Be sure to check out everything that we have to offer you at NashvilleChristianSongwriters.com. We'll see you next time.